Chair Corsi, thank you all for being here this afternoon. This type of brutal crime shakes the community. The events that took place this past Saturday are deeply disturbing and heartbreaking. The pain and suffering an innocent child endured at the hands of those he trusted and loved the most. Before I turn the podium over to our PIO, Detective Sullivan, I would be remiss if I didn't ask the community to find it in their heart to keep this child, his family, in their thoughts and prayers. Detective Sullivan?
Hello, my name's Detective Sullivan. Thank you guys for being here today. February 22nd at 10 p.m., we received a phone call from Advent Health Hospital staff that they received a 10-year-old male patient that contained evidence of physical abuse. Additionally, they were performing active CPR on the child and administering life-saving measures. We learned that the child was brought in through the front door of the emergency department after arriving by vehicle with the child's mother, Kimberley Mills, and a male now identified as Andre Walker. Per hospital staff, Andre left the hospital immediately. Once Kimberley learned that law enforcement was on the way, she immediately left the hospital, all while her 10-year-old son was receiving CPR. And just so you guys are aware, this is Andre Walker, and this is Kimberley Mills. Shortly after our units arrived at the hospital, Kimberley Mills returned with her other child. Once we obtained Kimberly's information, we obtained her address, which is within our city limits. Detectives began working immediately on obtaining a search warrant for the house. Kimberly refused to cooperate with the law enforcement investigation. The 10-year-old child was eventually airlifted to a regional trauma center where hospital staff continued life-saving efforts. It is clear to our agency that this child underwent gruesome abuse. He is covered head to toe, He is covered head to toe in various size bruises that are in various stages of healing. Additionally, he is covered in burn marks. This child underwent further abuse that I am unable to discuss at this time. This 10-year-old little boy is fighting for his life. He is in critical condition, and we are unsure which direction his healing will go. There is a high possibility that these charges could be enhanced depending on his outcome. Upon serving the search warrant at the residence, detectives obtained several pieces of pertinent evidence. This evidence told a story of what this child went through, and we believe will help piece together what occurred prior to them arriving at the hospital. To put it plainly, this child was tortured. I'm happy to say that shortly before this press conference, we learned Andre Walker turned himself into the Lake County Jail. Detectives in the community still have questions, and now that we know Andre Walker has turned himself in, detectives will be making contact with Andre Walker. We are hopeful that some of these questions will be answered. Detectives have put countless hours and continue to put all of their efforts towards this investigation. We want justice for this 10-year-old boy, and due to this being an open investigation, certain details cannot be released to or discussed to maintain integrity to this case. At this time, I'm willing to answer some questions.
Apparently this does not seem to be a one-time thing.
Based off of the bruises that we found in various stages of healing, no, we don't believe this is a one-time thing.
Can you say how long you think the abuse has gone back?
It's hard to say, but that's something we hope to find answers to.
Was the other boy, did he have any signs, he or she have any signs of abuse?
That's something that hopefully today we'll have answers to that as well.
Has Andre been cooperative? Have you guys had an opportunity to talk to him at all?
Due to him just recently turning himself in, we're hoping that we can get some of those, any questions that we have for him, that he'll be willing to answer that. So hopefully by the end of today.
If you could talk a little bit about, and you started speaking to, but how the boy who is being treated, how he is doing at this very moment.
At this very moment, he remains to be in critical condition. It's hard to say what direction he's going to go. He's fighting for his life.
Has the mother been cooperative at all? She made any statements you were able to share with us?
She did not wish to speak with us.
Is there any history with this family? Do you guys have a call history at that home, or is there a DCF history with this family?
So we checked with DCF. We did not see any recent or any contact with DCF reports or anything like that. We did do a call history at the residence. There was one recent call where mom called in with questions about the 10-year-old boy.
You didn't respond out there, though?
No, it was a call that could be handled over the phone.
Was there any signs of sexual abuse of this 10-year-old boy?
Some details of the investigation I can't say, but I will have you read in between the lines.
The relationship between Mills, Kimberly, and Andre, are they a couple? Are they related? What's their relationship?
Sure. So because she wasn't very forthcoming with her relationship with him or him at all, we're still trying to piece together his relationship to her.
Has there been any outside contact with other family in regards to the little boy that's being treated, and any distant relatives?
So biological dad, he lives out of state. He was immediately notified and was immediately able to come down to be with his 2 sons.
And can you speak at all to what you may have seen inside the house upon the search warrant?
Enough that we are able to paint a certain picture that leads us to believe this little boy was tortured.
Was the boy in school outside the home? Like,
Yes.
He was going
He
to
attended school, yes.
Talking about what you were able to take from the home is, and what has helped you piece together this investigation. I know we talked about burns. Is there anything that you can give us to give an indication of how he might have been burned?
Not without losing the integrity of the case.
If you could speak to the emotions, because I know I spoke to a neighbor, obviously very shocked. Us seeing the details, very shocking, and I see raw emotions during the press conference.
Ask your question one more time.
Your emotions.
My emotions. So I'm a mother. A lot of us are parents at this agency. So to hear and based off of what we've seen, obviously this is heartbreaking. As parents, we protect our children. We'll protect anyone's child. So to learn that this child was supposed to be protected and wasn't, obviously is devastating and gut-wrenching. So personally, it's difficult, as you saw. I tried to keep my cool, I'm sorry. So.
For the biological father, what was kind of his reaction? You said he was able to immediately come. What was his reaction, if you can speak to it at all?
If you were to imagine your child undergoing something like this and what your reaction would be, was his reaction. And a very reasonable reaction from a parent that loved their child.
Is he the father of the other child? as
Yes,
well?
yes.
Was he married to Kimberly?
I don't know. Anyone else? Okay, thank you guys for being here.
A little boy is on life support after serious abuse, which police say happened at the hands of his mother and a man who has since turned himself in.
Both are now behind bars. David, we are told those charges could be upgraded depending on the boy's outcome.
Yeah, and look, that tells you the extent of these serious injuries, what this 10-year-old little boy went through inside of this home behind me, which does remain taped off even as we head into the night with Tavares police still on scene. Police were able to search the home and found enough evidence to build a case of serious child abuse.
This 10-year-old little boy is fighting for his life.
Emotions running high in this small community.
The events that took place this past Saturday are deeply disturbing and heartbreaking.
It is clear to our agency that this child underwent gruesome abuse. He is covered head to toe, he is covered head to toe in various size bruises that are in various stages of healing.
It all happened Saturday night. Police say the boy was dropped off at the hospital by his mother, Kimberley Mills, who was still performing CPR. She was accompanied by 36-year-old Andre Walker. Hospital staff took over CPR. Mills and Walker left. Mills returned a short time with her other child. Walker was nowhere to be found. Staff told police they didn't know whether the boy would live. He was covered with bruises and burns across his body.
Can't imagine at all.
Neighbors reeling following the news.
Shocked. I would never expect him. It's a quiet neighborhood. I never expected.
Mary Phillips lives next door. She knows the family and the boys.
They just started to mow my lawn.
She says everything seemed fine, and Walker was a new face in the area.
If you gave birth to him, how could you beat him up? That's why I keep thinking that the man must have been more involved. I don't know.
Police say they do not believe the abuse to be a one-time thing. They did not have any calls to report abuse in the past, nor did Department of Children and Families. When I asked whether signs of sexual abuse were present,
some details of the investigation I can't say, but I will have you read in between the lines.
And a search of the Florida Department of Health website also reveals Mills holds an active license as a registered nurse. The little boy's biological father has flown in to be with his sons. Both Walker and Mills are being held this evening at the Lake County Jail. The Tavares police is asking that the pair be held without bond.
All right, so thank you everyone for coming. My name's Detective Courtney Sullivan. I'm a detective here with Tavares Police Department. I'm joined here with our lieutenant over the Criminal Investigations Division. We as a group have been working diligently in this case. Here at our department, we wanted to provide the community with an update on our child abuse investigation that began February 22nd 2025. Detectives have conducted numerous interviews and collected several pieces of evidence, and through this process, it has been revealed that there is more than one victim in this case. The younger brother in this case was also a victim of aggravated child abuse and child neglect. We will not go into details on what took place in the residence due to maintaining the integrity of the case. Kimberley Mills was methodical in what her children wore and what they said to others to ensure that absolutely no one would learn of what she was doing to her children behind closed doors. That being said, all fingers should be pointed in one direction at Kimberley Mills and Andre Walker, who participated together in hurting these children. Earlier this morning, we added additional charges on both Kimberley Mills and Andre Walker. For Kimberley Mills, she has been charged in total with the following: 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, 2 counts of child neglect, 2 counts of accessory to aggravated child abuse, 1 count of tampering with evidence. For Andre Walker, he has been charged in total with the following: 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, 2 counts of accessory to aggravated child abuse, 1 count of tampering with evidence. The 10-year-old boy remains in critical condition at the hospital. We are preparing for the worst, however, we are hoping for the best in terms of his recovery. We are working closely with the state attorney's office to ensure these 2 boys get the justice that they deserve. We commend our department as a whole, as every member has stepped up to assist in some way with this case. We ask that you continue to pray for these 2 boys, their father, and the rest of their family as they navigate this extremely difficult time. We have posted a link on our Facebook for others to donate, and we are also accepting gift card donations that will be given directly to the family. At this point, I will take any questions.
Can you talk about the kind of abuse that the 9-year-old had suffered? Was it similar to the abuse that the 10-year-old had, and any details that you could share on that?
I can't go into too much detail. However, we believe that they suffered very similar abuse, and that's why they were both charged, or both parties were charged with 2 counts of aggravated child abuse.
Can you explain the family dynamic? Were these long-term parents? Were they recently in the picture? Do you know how long this abuse had taken place?
Sure. So right now, we've determined that Kimberley Mills and Andre Walker are in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. We believe that it has been approximately 2 months. It's possible that it could be a little bit longer than that. Unsure of when the abuse started. However, it's leaning more towards that it was a recent period of time.
So 2 months that they were dating and not sure how long the abuse had been going on.
Unsure about how long the abuse has gone. However, we believe maybe about 2 months. It could be longer. We're still trying to dig further to figure that out.
You said that she was very meticulous in the clothes she put on them. Explain that.
So when the kids would go to school, they would wear longer sleeve shirts to cover up any marks. She ensured that they told absolutely no one. These kids were scared, and she made sure that absolutely no one would find out about it.
Did they go to school? They went to school?
Yes, they went to school.
And teachers didn't report this because?
They didn't report it because they had no idea something was going on. Again, Kimberley Mills made absolute certainty, made sure that these kids were not going to tell teachers and that no one would find out. So
You talked about the 2 different suspects in this case. She was the one that drove this and orchestrated it, is your understanding?
They both participated completely.
Have they been in the care of Kimberly their entire lives, and does it seem like the abuse started when the boyfriend and her got together?
So that's something that we're still trying to navigate through. I definitely believe that we'll have further information in that with time.
But she was the primary caretaker for them.
They lived with mom. Dad lives out of state.
Can you explain the tampering with evidence charge?
So we believe that whenever they left the hospital, they went back to the residence to try to do a hasty cleanup. I'm happy to say that they did a really bad job because we were able to obtain several pieces of evidence that will definitely assist our case.
The report said it looked like something hot had been put on the 10-year-old. Do we know what that was to cause burn marks?
So we're not going to discuss any pieces of evidence that we collected.
What school did the 10-year-old go to?
Not disclosing that.
You talked about wanting to get the justice that they deserve.
Right.
Working with the state attorney's office. This case is so horrific. Why has that been so important for your investigators, detectives, and I know you guys have been working really hard on this case, especially seeing the circumstances here.
So we all become police officers to help the community, right? As detectives, we're going to We look for convictions. We don't look just to charge someone with something. We put an entire case together to piece it together to ensure that the people that we put in jail stay in jail. This case is especially sensitive because it's kids. Don't mess with kids, period. As parents, we will make sure that we will do whatever it takes to keep our children safe, but because we're also parents, any other child, we will try to do our best to keep them safe, and that's our job.
Did you say that she's a registered nurse?
Yes, we discovered that she's also a registered nurse. We have not been able to figure out exactly where she works, or if she is still currently working as a registered nurse.
I'm just, this is blowing everyone's minds. Where possibly were they coming from? A mother participating in this kind of abuse, allowing her boyfriend to do this kind of, just your thoughts.
My thoughts, I can't quite piece it together. Again, as a mother and a decent human being, I would like to think, no one can piece that part together. I think it's a perfect representation of the kind of people that they are, and I think they are exactly where they need to be, and I hope that they remain there. Our agency is doing everything we can to make sure that they stay there.
So to follow up on that, I noticed in Kimberly's affidavit, it sounds like she's talking to you guys a little bit. Are either of them cooperating? Are they giving you any information?
Neither of them are cooperating. They both opted to not speak with us.
Do you find it unusual for, these kids are 9 and 10, she's only been with this guy for 2 months. That's pretty severe treatment over those 2 months. For her to, if that's only started in the last 2 months, doesn't it seem that she would have some sort of reaction or want to help in the case if that's not her normal type of activity?
You would think that any mother would not allow that kind of activity, so who knows, maybe this occurred before he was in the picture. That's something that we're going to discover, I think, throughout our investigation, but I think it also clears a really perfect picture of the kind of person that she is. No mother would allow this to happen.
I saw in an early interview, this case brought me close to tears.
I mean, yeah, that is difficult. I mean, our detective division is small. We have 3 detectives and our lieutenant. So we work closely with one another. We're human. And unfortunately, I had a moment, and it happened to be in front of all the cameras. Not my shining moment, but I mean, I think it's a perfect representation for absolutely everyone to see that us police officers are human. We're parents, we're human, and we just do what we can. So
I know the real dad is here now.
Right.
Do you know how they're doing? I know obviously the 10-year-old's in critical condition.
I can't imagine what dad is going through to have just learned that this was going on and now his son is in critical condition. I don't want to be in his shoes. However, he's doing what he needs to do to ensure that they are taken care of and that he's making all the best decisions for them. Our community has already started to try to pull together to figure out ways that they can help. We're working closely with the Tavares Police Charity to raise funds for the family. Additionally, we're accepting gift cards on the family's behalf to just clothes even. The little boy doesn't have any clothes right now. We recently were able to get out and get them some clothing. Dad flew down here in a rush, didn't pack a bag, so we also were having to get him some clothing. So I think gift cards would help. I posted on our Facebook page today a direct link that goes to our charity, and all of those funds will go towards the family.
Neither of these boys had clothes?
They had clothes within the house. The house is currently sectioned off as a crime scene. So
where does this case go from here? Are there still unanswered questions? Are you, as of right now, just waiting on the boy's condition? What's ahead?
So naturally, we want to see where the boy's condition is going to go. We are, again, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. From here, we're going to dive into all the evidence that we have, and we're going to just streamline this to the best of our ability to make sure they stay where they are right now. But we're working hard. If we have to add more charges because more information comes about, we will happily do so. I'm going to take one more question.
There's a new law passed that puts the death penalty in play if it's a child rape case. Could this be in play?
So because our victim is still in critical condition, we have not been able to disclose any details regarding the sexual abuse. Because of his condition, there's certain physical examinations that cannot be performed. So we cannot definitively say if it occurred, but if it has occurred, once we are able to do those examinations, naturally those charges will be brought to. I do appreciate you all coming. Thank you so much, and we'll keep you posted on anything else. Thank you.
The man accused of beating a little boy and then leaving him at a hospital before police arrived is now in jail. Andre Walker was arrested this afternoon.
Yeah, Walker, seen here, and that boy's mother are charged with child abuse.
And the unfortunate thing about the situation, police said today that they are not sure if this 10-year-old is going to survive. And these are shocking accusations because police also say that the boy's mom is a registered nurse. An alleged house of horrors.
To put it plainly, this child was tortured.
And Tavares police believe the boy's mom, Kimberley Mills, and this man, Andre Walker, are responsible.
This 10-year-old little boy is fighting for his life. He is in critical condition, and we are unsure which direction his healing will go.
According to the arrest report, Mills and Walker showed up at the hospital over the weekend because the boy wasn't breathing. Emergency staff say they also noticed bruises and burns on the boy and called police. Officers say Mills and Walker left the hospital when they heard law enforcement was coming as nurses continue working to revive the boy. Police say Mills eventually went back to the hospital, but Walker never returned. He turned himself into the Lake County Jail on Monday. Crime scene tape is still up at Mills' home as police investigate.
That's what I went over and said. I wasn't going to be nosy, but I'd like to know what's going on.
Neighbor Mary Phillips says she never saw signs of abuse, so hearing what may have happened in that home is shocking.
Shocked because I think the mother seemed like a very good mother and attentive.
Mills' second child was taken into custody by Child Services, and investigators are looking into whether that child was abused too. And police say in the case involving the 10-year-old child, they don't believe that this was the first time of alleged abuse. They believe that this was an ongoing situation. They say mom has not been very cooperative in interviews, but they hope to get more answers now that Walker is in custody. Both are being held at the Lake County Jail with no bond.
Just got audio of a Waterman Hospital phone call to police in Tavares letting them know about a serious case of abuse.
Yeah, police say the abuse happened at the hands of the boy's mother and another man.
Yeah, this audio is brief, but it certainly does create a very chilling picture in your mind of the serious nature of the type of abuse that this little boy endured inside of this home here on Dora Avenue in Tavares. Police calling that abuse torture. As of last check, he remains in Arnold Palmer Hospital, as police describe it, clinging to life, and they say they expect charges on the pair to be upgraded. It happened Saturday night. Kimberley Mills, the boy's mother, and Andre Walker both took the 10-year-old to the hospital. When they arrived, Mills, a nurse, was performing CPR. When staff took over, both Walker and Mills left. According to the call, Mills did not even provide a name to medical staff. She would later return with the boy's 12-year-old brother in tow, and Walker nowhere to be found. We're going to play you a snippet of that audio now after a staff member tells police a little boy had arrived in cardiac arrest with clear signs of abuse.
I don't know if the child is going to survive or not, so. Do they know that you've contacted law enforcement? Not that I'm aware of, but I guess Dad was here and Dad left immediately.
Important to note here, the call was based on initial information. The biological father of the two boys flew in to be with his sons. I spoke to him briefly on the phone earlier. He was understandably shaken up. The boy, meanwhile, does remain in critical condition. Police tell me that they've been conducting interviews, following up with different people, with the faculty and the parents at the boys' schools. They've also been working to try and see what kind of information they can gather from Walker. We've been staying on top of this investigation.
First at 4, the concerning call made after police say a 10-year-old boy was abused and then dropped off at the hospital.
Police say that boy is fighting for his life after his mom and another man dropped him off in Lake County with burns and bruises all over his body. Injuries, investigators say, are signs of torture.
Many others in this community are just trying to wrap their minds around the unspeakable, all while this little 10-year-old boy fights for his life in the hospital.
So to hear this, it hits hard, and it's very devastating.
A community left stunned. More questions than answers.
I was heartbroken. Couldn't believe it.
Pastor Dave Harris runs Faith Christian Fellowship in Tavares, just down the street from the home where police say the torture happened.
I don't know if the child is going to survive or not, so.
Staff at Waterman Hospital putting in the call to police over the weekend after Kimberley Mills, the mother, dropped off the boy, along with Andre Walker.
Do you know where they came from, an address or anything? No, I don't even have the child's name listed. He's currently listed as a JoJo in our system. system.
Mills, a registered nurse, and Walker would then leave. Mills later returned with the little boy's brother in tow. She was arrested. Walker was later arrested.
I know those boys are sweet. They're kind, they're well-mannered.
Karen Desenor runs the garden at the church.
They worked here in this garden with us quite often after school. They played with my 2 kids. I have 2 toddlers. They're very caring, very gentle, very sweet.
We have a relationship with those boys. They used to come to our youth group. So to hear that, I couldn't believe it.
Harris says the boys went to church with their grandmother.
The moment time she went back to Jamaica, the kids stopped coming.
Desenor says Walker was the mother's long-term boyfriend. She says abuse can be hard to fathom, but hopes this case will be a wake-up call to others.
Whether that's getting help, whether that's speaking up, whether you're in a situation that you need to get outside help, I pray that this is that red flag that raises it for other families who are in these situations.
Both Walker and Mills are being held this afternoon in the Lake County Jail without bond. I did briefly speak with the boys' father, their biological father, today. He flew down to be here for them. He says he's understandably devastated.
Mom of the 10-year-old boy, still in critical condition in the hospital tonight, has pleaded not guilty to child abuse charges. She and Andre Walker brought that child to Advent Health Waterman over the weekend. Police say doctors noticed severe bruising and burn marks across that boy's body. Mills is accused of child abuse. Walker already pled not guilty to being an accessory after the fact for aggravated child abuse.
Nothing short of torture is what police are calling a case where a 10-year-old boy's mother and another man dropped him off at the hospital.
The mother, Kimberley Mills, was ultimately taken to jail, but this man here, this is Andre Walker, he just turned himself in today.
That's because tragically this little boy may not survive. The Tavares Police Department say he is fighting for his life after what happened to him. You can see his home behind me here still blocked off by a Tavares police cruiser and police tape. And based on the bruises on this little boy's body, police don't believe the abuse was a one-time thing. The Tavares Police Department says they got a call Saturday night from a hospital about Kimberley Mills and Andre Walker arriving with Mills' son, who she was performing CPR on. Her son ultimately had to be airlifted to a trauma center. The police department saying it is clear the boy was the victim of gruesome abuse. Mills was arrested over the weekend on a charge of aggravated child abuse. Walker turned himself in at the Lake County Jail Monday, facing a charge of accessory after the fact aggravated child abuse. Both are being held on no bond. The Tavares Police Department says they don't believe the abuse of the boy was a one-time thing, but said there were no previous reports to the Department of Children and Families. And people who lived in their neighborhood told us they had no idea anything was going on.
I thought everything was all right, but when I seen this, I was shocked.
Not everyone in the neighborhood wanted to go on camera, but all seemed crushed a kid could be put through what this little boy was. The police department says the boy's father got here from out of state to be with him and his brother as soon as he could.
I wouldn't know what to do if that was my kid. I couldn't handle it.
Now, the police department says they were able to get some key evidence from inside this house that they think is going to be able to help them piece together what happened before this little boy was taken to the hospital. Now, we have been working to try and get more information about the 2 suspects here. We were able to confirm through a Florida Department of Health database that Mills does have an active license as a registered nurse.
Also breaking in the last hour, Tavares police announced new charges against a mom and her boyfriend already accused of abusing her 10-year-old son.
Yeah, in that case, police say the boy was tortured, and now police say there's a second victim, Kimberley Mills' 9-year-old son.
Well, this case has been so traumatizing that it has put veteran detectives in tears, and now the couple is facing more charges because police say they allegedly also abused the woman's 9-year-old son. Now, this started when police say a 10-year-old boy, the first victim, was brought to the emergency room by his mom, Kimberley Mills, and her boyfriend, Andre Walker. The boy was in such bad shape, doctors were not sure they could save him. Both Mills and Walker are accused of torturing the 10-year-old. Doctors found bruises all over his body and burns. Police say one burn looked like something hot was put on his skin to cause the burn marks. Now, without giving too many details, today police say the boy's 9-year-old brother had similar signs of abuse, and that in both cases their mother did everything she could to hide it from everyone, including teachers.
So when the kids would go to school, they would wear longer sleeve shirts to cover up any marks. She ensured that they told absolutely no one. These kids were scared, and she made sure that absolutely no one would find out about it.
Now, as a result, charges in connection with the 9-year-old brother. The couple is now facing 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, 2 counts of accessory to aggravated child abuse, and more. Now, police also tell us that there are possible signs of sexual abuse with the 10-year-old, but that the boy is in such bad condition right now, they cannot do the examination.
Police are now accusing this Tavares couple of torturing a second little boy before dropping a 10-year-old off at the hospital on the brink of death this past weekend.
Everyone out here is praying for a miracle, but police are preparing for the worst. The second boy we've learned is the 10-year-old boy's brother. He is with family and he is doing okay.
All fingers should be pointed in one direction.
Tavares police barely containing their disgust for Kimberley Mills and Andre Walker, the girlfriend-boyfriend pair now charged with torturing 2 boys, 10 and 9, the elder still fighting for his life. They singled out Mills, who they said forced the boys to wear long-sleeve shirts to cover the marks up and tried to hide evidence.
Whenever they left the hospital, they went back to the residence to try to do a hasty cleanup. I'm happy to say that they did a really bad job because we were able to obtain several pieces of evidence that will definitely assist our case. Kimberley Mills made absolute certainty, made sure that these kids were not going to tell teachers and that no one would find out.
Sir, can you please state your name? I'm sorry?
Andre Walker. Detectives say Walker entered Mills' life 2 months ago, and the torture began around that time. Police say they're now waiting to see if the 10-year-old recovers. If not, they say more charges are ready to go.
I think they are exactly where they need to be, and I hope that they remain there. Our agency is doing everything we can to make sure that they stay there.
And they are staying in jail tonight. Walker's attorney, before these new charges hit, filed for a bond release. We'll see if that is granted. That hearing is scheduled for Tuesday. Police say neither adult is cooperating.